Hey, it's cardiologist Dr. Jack Wolfson here, and in this video presentation, I want to teach you how to lower your cholesterol. Now, I'm not overly concerned about having low cholesterol. I want you to find actually it's the perfect cholesterol for you. So maybe we can call this webinar Your Perfect Cholesterol, because each one of us has the perfect number that we should have for our best health and wellness, and that's what this presentation is all about. So again, if you're someone who's been told you have high cholesterol, this presentation, this training is for you. If you're on statin drugs, please pay attention to this one, very important. If you've been told you have coronary artery disease, maybe you've had a stent, maybe you've had bypass surgery, maybe you had a CT scan, and they were told you have coronary artery disease, this is for you. If you're someone who wants to prevent a heart attack or a stroke, you're in the right place. Maybe you've already had a heart attack or stroke and you don't want to have another one, you're in the right place. And this presentation is also for people who care for others with cardiovascular heart health concerns. So maybe it's your husband, maybe it's your wife, maybe it's your parents, son or daughter, whoever it may be, even just advising friends. I think you're going to find that this information is very useful. So what we're going to talk about 3 myths about cholesterol that you need to know because they're costing people the good health because they don't understand this. We're going to talk about 3 foods to eat and 3 foods not to eat as it relates to cholesterol. We're going to talk about some simple lifestyle changes to normalize your cholesterol and find good levels for you. And then we're going to talk about some supplements that are evidence-based that can also be used to improve your cholesterol numbers. Now, I've been, seeing people for a long time, including, for example, this guy, Joe. Joe is 56 years old. He's had a previous heart attack. He was on statins, but he didn't like the way that he felt. He was suffering all different kinds of symptoms, low libido, just low energy, fatigue, didn't like the statin drugs. And by working with us, as you can see on the screen, his numbers really improved. Now, this is not total cholesterol numbers. This is a better marker that we use called the apolipoprotein BA ratio. We can talk more about that later, but you can see the numbers on the right. The numbers on the right are in the red. And then over time, we got them over into the green zone over there on the left, which is great. And that's where we want you to be and want everyone to be. So ultimately, everyone has the perfect cholesterol numbers that they should achieve. And we at Natural Heart Doctor help people find their perfect numbers. As you can imagine, this training is not sponsored by Pfizer or Merck or AstraZeneca. As you would imagine, this is not in alignment with the American Heart Association or the American College of Cardiology. I'm not telling you to stop your pharmaceuticals. I'm telling you, I want you to learn this information. I want you to get the best health information, and I want you to work with us going forward to achieve your best heart health and longevity. Listen, the life expectancy of an American male is the mid-70s, female, late 70s. That's not good enough. This is the home of the 100-year hearts, and we want you to achieve that 100-year heart. And you're not going to make it in mainstream. We know what their numbers are. A little bit about me. I am a board-certified cardiologist since 2002. I'm a former partner in the largest cardiology group in the state of Arizona, hospital-based cardiologist. I was the director of internal medicine, cardiac rehab, chairman of cardiology. I was voted by my peers in 2011 one of Phoenix, Arizona's top doctors. In 2012, I would leave the big cardiology group, start my own practice, Natural Heart Doctor. I am married to Dr. Heather Wolfson. We have 4 children and farm animals, and I am very, very, very blessed. I also wrote this textbook chapter in the textbook of integrative cardiovascular medicine, and then also I am the author of the Amazon best-selling book, The Paleo Cardiologist, The Natural Way to Heart Health. All right, so I promised you 3 myths as it relates to cardiovascular disease, and let me go ahead and tell you what these myths are. So myth number 1 is that cholesterol is bad. So cholesterol is not bad at all. That's why our bodies make cholesterol. That's why all animals make cholesterol. That's why a chicken egg contains cholesterol. That's why our mother's breast milk has cholesterol. That's what is nutritious. That's what helps the body. So we want to really understand that cholesterol is a beneficial molecule, does some fantastic things, and it's really just carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. There's no heavy metals in there or plastics or chemicals or anything like that. It's just carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen arranged in a certain way, the way we were built, and that's something to be celebrated is really what it is. So I want to step up to the paper pad over here and just talk to you about some of the other miraculous things that cholesterol does. So join me over here. All right, so I want you to think about the word cholesterol, and I want you to celebrate it, and I want you to enjoy it and understand that it's so beneficial. So up here we've got cholesterol, and I apologize for my handwriting. I am a fantastic physician. My handwriting is somewhat, which actually is kind of goes synonymous with that. Most people know that the medical doctors have terrible handwriting. You can ask all the nurses I ever worked with or my staff here at Natural Heart Doctor. Okay, so we've got this cholesterol here, and this is the good guy. So what does cholesterol do? Well, one thing is that as the body makes cholesterol, it's put into the circulation, and when the sunshine hits it, it turns it into something you've probably heard of called vitamin D. Right? Vitamin D, people with the highest levels of vitamin D have the lowest risk of everything. So we want to make sure, again, that when we have good cholesterol levels, it's circulating around, the sun hits it, which is beneficial, turns it into vitamin D. People with highest levels of vitamin D, lowest risk of heart attack, stroke, cancer, dying, dementia, you name it. So let's celebrate cholesterol for that fact. Number two, cholesterol is very important for our digestion. What happens is that the body makes the cholesterol, puts it into the gallbladder, it squeezes it on top of our food, and we therefore digest our food better. The other thing that cholesterol does, okay, is that all of our sex hormones come from cholesterol. Things like testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, which men and women have all of those in different levels, of course, but it comes from the cholesterol molecule, and that's why it is super important to celebrate cholesterol and find the perfect levels so we can make the perfect amount of vitamin D and digestion and for sex hormones. Back to the vitamin D real quick is that when you're in the sun, cholesterol levels go down, vitamin D goes up, and you find what's perfect for you. Now, in addition, there's a couple other hormones, things like aldosterone, cortisol, which is the stress hormone. That's also made from cholesterol. And then ultimately, the cholesterol makes up something here called the cell membrane. And the cell membrane is the fence that keeps things inside the cell that belong and outside the cell that don't belong. And we want that cell membrane strong. It's a good fence where things get into the cell that belong, stay outside the cell that don't belong. The cell membrane right here is made up of many different things that do the job. One of those things, of course, is cholesterol. Very important to have the cell membrane loaded with cholesterol. Now, on a side note, the other thing that is very plentiful in that cell membrane, which is the brains of the cell, I cannot overstress the importance of this particular area. That is omega-3 fatty acids coming from eating seafood. And that's why you often hear me talking about the importance of seafood or seafood supplements, that are so beneficial. Not fish oil supplements, but actually eating seafood or actual seafood supplements. Okay, but that is really all the different things that cholesterol does. It's a molecule that should be celebrated and not vilified. When it is vilified, please understand it is pure pharmaceutical company speak. That's them trying to sell us the pharmaceuticals. That is not what we want. Okay, so let's get back to the presentation here, and I'll sit back down and resume that for us right now. So, a lot of people would say that, isn't cholesterol linked to heart disease? And the reality is that it's not. So the studies show that people with very high levels of cholesterol, that can be a problem, but also people with very low levels of cholesterol, that's a problem. So we want to find the perfect sweet spot for you when you're following the right nutrition and lifestyle and things we'll talk about in a little bit. Now, there is a study from way back in 2005 that showed that people with the higher levels of total cholesterol, they have the lowest risk of late life dementia. So high total cholesterol levels in late life, lowest risk of dementia. So a lot of people believe it's time to retire the cholesterol test, and I would agree. I don't even bother with total cholesterol levels. People talk about LDL and LDL cholesterol, and that's the bad cholesterol. Again, that's just pharmaceutical company speak. It's not the truth. It's just not the reality that LDL is the bad. If LDL was the bad, why would my body make it? Why do all animals make LDL? LDL has a purpose, and that purpose, again, should be celebrated. The LDL you can think of as like a bus that leaves the liver and travels around the body, delivering the passengers where they're needed. Who are the passengers on that LDL bus? Well, you've got fat-soluble vitamins like vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin K, that are all critically important. You've also got CoQ10 for energy production. LDL is an antioxidant molecule in the body. It's also an important part of our immune system. So let's not call LDL the bad guy. And when it comes to LDL, we can actually do much more in-depth measurements. So I hope you're doing this with your doctor or work with us and we can help you with that. Because there are LDLs that are concerning. Those are the small, dense LDLs. There's a reason for those. But there's also good, large, buoyant, fluffy LDLs, they're called. These larger LDLs that are the healthy ones. And you should have that measured as opposed to a total LDL number. And we've known this really since the early 2000s, that people with this apolipoprotein BA ratio, the lower that ratio, the better. And that's what we showed you in the beginning in that one example of the person who's working with us and his ratios look a lot better. So, jot this down that you should be looking for, ask your doctor about this apolipoprotein BA ratio. Okay, so that was a lot about myth number one, that cholesterol is bad. I hope you now understand that cholesterol is actually very good and very beneficial. Now, the number two myth is that statin drugs are the answer. And statin drugs are not the answer. Statin drugs, I believe, have killed millions of people. Why? Because people think that they can take a Lipitor and eat whatever they want. And that's what they do. And unfortunately, the people who follow that, they're no longer around. So there are multiple studies that show that cholesterol drugs like statin drugs have very little benefit, and that they actually, in some of these studies, more people died in the statin drug group. There was a trial that was done in the late 1990s called AFCAPS, TEXCAPS. More people died in the statin group. There was a trial called the PROSPER trial that found that more people died in the statin group. And then there was the ALLHAT trial that was published in 2017, where people age 65 and older, for primary prevention, meaning they've never had a stroke or a heart attack, for primary prevention, 18% higher risk of dying in the statin drug group. If you were older than 75, was a 34% higher risk of dying. Well, the most recent meta-analysis, meaning all these studies that were kind of put together and all the patients were all lumped in together, found that statin drugs lower the risk of heart attack, stroke, and dying by a little bit. Not even a full percentage point. In fact, not even half of a percentage point. And the goal is not to reduce your risk of heart attack, stroke, and dying from 3% to 2.7%. You want to know how to get to 0%. I'm Dr. Jack Wolfson. I'm in my early 50s. I don't want to have any risk of having a heart attack, stroke, or dying in the next year, the next 10 years, the next 50 years. That's what I want, and that's what I want, of course, for you. Now then you get into the side effects of the statin drugs. So not only do the statin drugs not work, not only do they lead to a false sense of security, thinking that they do work, but they also have a tremendously long list of side effects. And I've seen it, and it's in the medical literature, because what happens is when you take this pharmaceutical that interferes with the body getting the job done, you're going to have side effects. In particular, the statin drug interferes with an enzyme called HMG-CoA reductase. Very long name. I didn't come up with that. But when you block that enzyme that converts various food, how we make cholesterol is when we eat food, the body makes cholesterol from it, as it appropriately should. Well, the statin drug blocks that step so it doesn't make as much cholesterol. Now, the problem is cholesterol is not made, and I showed you how important that was up on the drawing over there. But it's also I want you to understand that there's other things that is supposed to be made by this enzyme. Things like heme A, dolichol, prenylated proteins, CoQ10. I'm not going to get into these things, but just understand the body's trying to make these things, and the statin drug inhibits that, and therefore you're going to get side effects. I also want you to know that most of the statin drugs contain the fluorine atom. Now, that's what's found in fluoride. Most people understand the risks, the dangers, the concerns of fluoride, what it does to the brain, what it does to the bones. Well, it's in the statin drugs, so be very careful of that as well. So maybe no surprise that statin drugs that are the fat-soluble drugs, that means they cross into the brain very easily, things like atorvastatin and simvastatin. What a study from the Journal of Nuclear Medicine found that statin users had triple the dementia risk of non-users. That's right, triple the rate of dementia compared to non-users. So we got to get real serious about this. Okay, that was myth number 2. Myth number 3. Myth number 3. You cannot improve your cholesterol naturally. The doctors really don't want you to question them, and they don't want you to think that you can control cholesterol naturally. Certainly pharmaceutical companies, drug companies, they don't want you to think that you can control your cholesterol naturally, but you can, and we've been doing it for many years. Now, the way that we help you find your perfect cholesterol is what we call the 100-year heart method. So let me explain that more about the 100-year heart method. The 100-year heart method utilizes 4 pillars: thrival nutrition, thrival lifestyle, thrival biohacking, and thrival ultra diagnostics. So to that end, I promised you 3 foods to help you achieve the perfect cholesterol. Number 1, eat organic. Get the chemicals out of your food. No matter what diet you follow, vegan, vegetarian, paleo, keto, carnivore, Mediterranean, no matter what it is, just make sure it's organic. Get the chemicals, artificial flavors, artificial colors, artificial sweeteners. Get that out of your diet. The next thing that I would advise you on is to eat seafood. Wild salmon, sardines, anchovies, clams, oyster, shrimp, lobster, crab, wild salmon, roe. All of those things are loaded with omega-3 fatty acids that help you achieve the best cholesterol numbers. In addition, as we talked about, it's great for the cell membrane, that fence that surrounds the cell. Very important to eat that seafood. And number 3, eat free-range grass-fed meats. My favorite is the bison, and we also eat the bison organs. If you want a healthy liver, eat liver. If you want a healthy heart, eat heart, so on and so forth. And I think that's a great strategy for you. So if you follow those 3 things. Now, I told you 3 things that I would not eat, And I'll start off with number 1, do not eat anything artificial. Don't eat artificial flavors, artificial colors, artificial sweeteners. Make sure that it is real food. Number 2, keep your processed sugar intake to a minimum. If you're going to eat sugar-rich foods, try and find things that are sweetened with raw honey. Use raw honey. Eat seasonal fruit as a good source of fruit sugar inside the fruit. That's going to be your sugar treats as well. And then number 3, we're going to avoid all of these highly processed oils, especially the non-organic ones. So GMO, soybean oil, and corn oil, and some of these other highly processed seed oils. I'm not saying never eat seed oils. I don't think that organic sunflower oil is that bad for you, especially when you're doing a lot of omega-3 fats from seafood. I don't vilify the seed oils that much. I don't consume them much in my diet. But these are, really kind of hitting home that point of avoiding the GMOs and things that are soaked with pesticides like glyphosate, organophosphates, organochlorines that do so much damage to the gut microbiome. And then once you damage the gut microbiome, that delicate amount of trillions of bacteria that are in our gut that help us digest our food and our immune system and all the things it does. So we don't want to disrupt that by these foods that are loaded with these pesticides. Okay, so that's Thrival Nutrition. Thrival Lifestyle is a really big category. These are things like sunshine, as we talked about, that optimize cholesterol levels, the sleep, which is critically important, the physical activity or movement, and then you get this big category of environmental toxins. And you want to get away from the toxins like the pesticides and things like that we mentioned, but also mold mycotoxins, other environmental toxins, air pollution, plastic is a big one. So back to what I was saying before, I'm not overly concerned about organic sunflower oil. I certainly am concerned about the plastic intake. Plastic levels are much more detrimental to your health, and plastic is much more detrimental to your health than organic sunflower oil. Okay, I hope that's understandable there. So the other thing is that we've got Thrival Biohacking, and these are all the evidence-based supplements that are in there that I'm going to talk about in a second. And then also you've got these other biohacking strategies like sauna, red light therapy, IV therapy, a lot of different things there. Now inside again of the biohacking, that's where we got the supplements that are in there, and the supplements supplement the healthy lifestyle. They don't replace it. You can't just eat fast food and not sleep and not get physical activity and sunshine. You need to do those foundational things, but then we stack the supplements on top of that to help find the perfect numbers for you. Let's face it, the world is a very unhealthy, polluted place, so we will need some supplements in many cases to help people achieve their best numbers. I want to tell you about 7 nutrients that I think you need to know about because they can help you achieve your best lipid and cholesterol numbers. So we put all of these into a product called Optilipid. I'll tell you about that in a little bit, but let me tell you about these 7 nutrients that I think are absolutely spectacular, and the evidence supports their use, and we've been using them for years. Number 1 is berberine. Berberine comes from a plant, actually a bush found in Asia, and the plant is harvested. They take the leaves, they take the fruit from that plant, and they have been using that in Asian populations studied for about 75 plus years. Now, one thing as it relates to cholesterol numbers, berberine is shown to reduce total cholesterol numbers, reduce LDL, raise HDL, lower triglycerides. Berberine has also been shown to improve blood sugar numbers, lower inflammation, oxidative stress, improve blood pressure as well. So some really cool things that are done with berberine. So berberine is one of the fundamental products that I often use for people who have any kind of cardiovascular condition, but certainly for people with cholesterol concerns. Now, the next thing I'll tell you about is called silymarin, often known as milk thistle. Milk thistle is a seed. It's a plant, but we take the seed, and the seed contains certain nutrients that are in there, including something called silymarin. And silymarin has been studied alone. It's actually been studied in addition to berberine, and they're very synergistic what they do. So synergy means you can use lower amounts of each one to achieve the desired result. And silymarin has been found to be very good, not only for the cholesterol numbers, but also for inflammation, that ever important oxidative stress that I talk about, the rusting of the cells, the rusting of the body that's happening to all of us all the time. It's also very good for your liver, and as a liver tonic, helps people in multiple studies for something called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which is prevalent in society. So berberine and silymarin have been shown to be comparable to atorvastatin. I'm not here to try and equal atorvastatin in shutting numbers down, lowering numbers down. What I want to do is I want to provide an all-natural treatment strategy for you. So the next component that I would talk about after silymarin is something called green tea extract. And yeah, that comes from green tea. Green tea, hundreds and hundreds of studies on the benefits of green tea, and the extract is non-caffeinated. And when they study the extract from the green tea to get out all those beneficial nutrients from the green tea, they find improved total cholesterol, improved LDLs, and actually there's evidence that it helps support weight loss. So I think that this is a cool strategy as it relates to finding a better weight for you. It's also very good for blood sugar control, which is exciting. And also data shows that CRP, the most common and best marker of inflammation, which is critical to determine your risk of having a heart attack and everything else, that the green tea extract lowers inflammation by over 30%, which is very exciting. The next nutrient that I put into Optilipid is curcumin. And curcumin is one of the main ingredients or active compounds inside the root vegetable turmeric. Turmeric is bright orange. It is found in many Indian dishes, and it's a very tasty, has a little bit of spice, a little bit of kick to it, tremendous flavor, curry flavor is heavy in turmeric. So curcumin inside of there does some really cool things. A lot of data over here as well regarding total cholesterol, LDLs, HDLs, but also inflammation, oxidative stress, HDL function, may help clear out some of the nasty proteins associated in the brain with Alzheimer's disease, lowers homocysteine, it's a natural blood thinner, helps to open up blood vessels as well for blood pressure. So really cool what curcumin does. The next compound is resveratrol. Resveratrol you likely have heard of. It's found in red wine, but it's also, of course, found in the grape, and it's also found in the supplement form. And our unique fermented resveratrol may lead to better absorption, and that's why we selected it for our product. And resveratrol has been shown to help with cholesterol numbers in double-blind, placebo-controlled trials, seeing some very cool things what resveratrol does. It's also good for blood sugar, improves insulin sensitivity, and actually is a very good antioxidant, which is why maybe the French paradox, because they drink a lot of red wine in France and they have a lower risk of heart disease despite consuming higher amounts of fat. They told us fat was bad. That's a whole nother story, which is not, especially when you're getting high quality fats. But that's resveratrol on what it can do. The next component is ginger. Ginger is a root vegetable. It also has a little bit of a spice to it. It shows improvement for cholesterol numbers, lowers weight down, helps with inflammation, blood pressure, and it's a natural blood thinner as well. So we don't want our blood thinned, but we want our blood flowing normally, and that's going to be a key to success as well. And then finally, we've got quercetin. Quercetin became very popular during the last 4+ years in the pandemic, and quercetin is very anti-inflammatory. Quercetin is found in foods like capers and onions, but it can also be obtained in supplement form. It lowers the oxidative damage of LDL particles, which is pretty darn cool. So that's why we put all these nutrients inside of a product called Optilipid to support healthy cholesterol levels. Take a look at it. It's this combination that's worked for so many people. They tolerate it super well. We're getting some great results. And you can just go and, just look at all these different testimonials here that we're scrolling through, that you can see where Optilipid is beneficial, what Jim, Sharon, Stephen, what they all have to say about this. Now, Optilipid also comes with a money-back guarantee. If you're not happy with the way that you feel, if you're not happy with the results, we'll give you a full refund, no questions asked. Our objective here is to help you obtain your best heart health, to find the perfect cholesterol numbers for you, and ultimately for you to live the 100-year heart. So you can see all the different offerings that we have here regarding Optilipid. I hope you select Optilipid as a statin drug alternative. You can take it in addition to statins. Maybe check that out with your doctor first. We have a lot of people over the years who have tried both. I personally don't prescribe statin drugs any longer. It's been about 10 years since I've done so. I don't think that's an approach. I think the best approach is the 100-year heart method. Thrival nutrition, Thrival lifestyle, that Thrival biohacking, including the evidence-based supplements, and then Thrival Ultra Diagnostics to do the most advanced testing in the world to make sure you're on track for the 100-year heart. So thank you so much for listening to this presentation about how we're trying to obtain the perfect cholesterol for you on your way to the 100-year heart.